Hey, what's up guys? It's LeMar DeVente, and do you guys remember Hydranoid and Masquerade? Well, those are some of my favorite characters in the show, and here they are, some of the original ones. And, of course, I have the full evolutionary line of them. And here's the thing, Hydranoid is back in the Bakugan Reboot. So, first off, let's start with the core Hydranoid over here. And as you can see, it's an Aquos, because they ended up changing Hydranoid's native attribute to being the water type. That is one of the biggest changes made to it in the reboot, but it's honestly not that much of a big deal. And on the back is just a bunch of warnings. So now for everything else about this Bakugan, it's time to crack it open. So included in the box is the Bakugan, 2 Baku cores, and the character cards. Now the character card is showing the rating for the Bakugan, so it has 300B, which is the equivalent of G power, and 6 damage. And damage is something I'll get on later when I go to the Darkus Hydranoid, because it will be easier to explain. And then Baku cores are the replacement for gate cards. So as you remember, we had all these different gate cards here, which were basically the field, and now the field is consisted of hexagons. So you get 2 shields here, because that's what the Hydranoid uses, so plus 200B and minus 200B, respectively. And here is the Bakugan itself. It opens really nicely too, and lots of detail going on as well, as you can see here with every head here, which is 5 of them, having a lot of detail to the face. So you can see the teeth, a bit of the tongue, eyes. Looks really nice, and it has a visible tail and printed B power on it, just like the original Hydranoids and pretty much all the original Bakugan as well. So now to compare Aquos Hydranoid to the rest of the Hydranoids. So first off is the first iteration. Now one thing I really like is that they kept the exposed teeth look on the heads of Hydranoid. I think that's a really nice design that they kept. Now, something that's similar with just this first iteration is that they both have 4 legs, and they both have a very clear exposed tail, so I feel like it does take those attributes from the first design of Hydranoid. One thing it doesn't have is all the spikes going down its neck or its tail. It's a much smoother design, and it's more mechanical, really, when you see the monster design in the show. And this is clearly much more of kind of like a dragon mixed with the Hydra. And that is really cool about this, though this has taken up a new menacing look in a different way. Now, with dual Hydranoid over here, you can see it's a lot bulkier. It does have this ring in the center, as this is supposed to kind of be like a chainsaw, and it walks on 2 legs and all that. And much different, as you can see, as there's less focus on just the 2 heads and the bulk of the body. Now, one of my favorites is Alpha Hydranoid, and I feel like it's most similar in design to this. So taking a look at it from the back, you can see that it has 5 points of opening on the top, and then on the bottom it does have the feet as well. So that's what makes me think it's most similar, just in the looks alone. Now this does have a very visible red horn and the red tongue, which is quite cute. And that is one thing that this Hydranoid doesn't really show, is any signs of horns on the top of their heads. This also has the 3 heads, 1, 2, and 3, and then the 2 arms over here. And the monster design actually has wings. So the difference is just a few heads, but again, I feel like this is most similar, and honestly, I think that they did a great job with the new Hydranoid, as they added many more heads, gave it a really pop-open look, and the paint job is quite nice on it. I really like it. Even though they did change it from Darkus to Aquos, still they did a great job with rebooting Hydranoid. Now the next Hydranoid release is the Bakugan Resurgence starter set, and this has the exclusive Darkus Hydranoid Ultra. And an Ultra Bakugan is essentially a deluxe Bakugan, and that's because they can actually jump. Now this also comes with 2 other Bakugan and a 40 card deck for the trading card game, and time to show off that Hydranoid. So the Bakugan included are Hydranoid Ultra, Nilius, and Gortheon, and right now I'm going to be focusing on the Darkus Hydranoid Ultra. So, taking a look at the ball form for Darkus Hydranoid Ultra, you can see that it has 4 of the Hydranoid heads exposed on the outside, and that looks really cool actually. And it has the final head right here in the center. Now, the ball form is fairly round. It does have some bumps, but the rolling path is very clear, so it should be easy to roll. Now, looking at the character card, as you can see, it uses 2 of the Helix cores. It has 500B and 3 damage. Now, something to mention is that the monster itself has 5 heads and 4 legs. The original Hydranoid had 4 legs as well, and it only had 1 head, and then it evolved to only stand on 2 legs, and then it had 3 heads and a pair of wings, and this does not have wings actually, so there's that. Now, to talk about why it's called an Ultra, as you can see, some Bakugan aren't Ultra, and like the original Bakugan, they have a magnet on the bottom of them here. Now, an Ultra Bakugan is going to have it somewhere else on its body except for the bottom, and for Hydranoid, That is right on top of its head. And I'm going to show you what that's like when I roll it. And here it is with the Baku core on its head. So that is the transformation of Darkus Hydranoid Ultra, and I really like the Ultra Bakugan for this because it allows for such more complex designs, as it has such a taller stature than most Bakugan, and also that its entire body can open up so it can have the 4 heads on the outside. To compare it to the very first Hydranoid from Battle Brawlers, you can see it is much taller, has many more heads, but they both have 4 legs, as you can see, has these small ones over here, and they both have a very visible tail on the back of their designs. And the heads are really different in my opinion. As you can see here on the original one, it is so much more focused on the spikes and all that. It really gives it a really menacing look to it overall, which is something I really like about it, and the visible teeth there as well, and the red eyes. Now, on the new one, it keeps more to the new Darkus color scheme where it's purple and green on black, and I still think that looks really good, honestly. And the heads are much different. They still have a lot of detail to them, as you can see. You can see the teeth painted on here, and even the smaller head, much different than the original Hydranoid, but I think the size of it and the amount of heads it has just makes it more menacing. And over here is Alpha Hydranoid, the final evolution of Hydranoid. Still much taller, and this one actually has a horn as well in red, but these new Hydranoids don't actually have that much of visible horns except for when it's painted on. So much different, but still, they did a good job of bringing back the Hydranoid in the new reboot. Now, there's 2 other Bakugan that come in the Hydranoid deck. So first off is Gortheon. And this is a monkey Bakugan, and the design is very front heavy, and it looks pretty nice, as you can see here. Here's just a quick look at it. And there it is. Now, the character card. This uses a shield and a flaming fist. It has 300 beat and 1 damage, and the victor effect. So if you win a battle, you can draw a card. Now, it is Nilius. Now, the card says Nilius Ultra, but this is actually the wrong card that was included in the deck. Now, to open the Bakugan up, if it wants to open, that'd be nice. There it is. I originally thought this was going to be the reboot version of Hydranoid because looking at the monster design, it did have the wings and it did have the kind of slim body design that Alpha Hydranoid did. So I did think this was going to be a replacement. And here's a comparison of the 2 actually. And I still feel like there are some similarities with what they did go for, but I'm really glad that we did get the new Hydranoid because that is quite clearly Hydranoid, and that is something I really like about it. And Nilius is still quite a nice rival Bakugan. Now, each Bakugan has 2 Baku cores that they have to use, which is why there's 6 included, as there is 3 Bakugan. Now, there's 3 Flaming Fists here, so plus 250B, plus 3 damage, minus 4 damage, plus 5 damage, and then 1 shield for plus 300B. Then the Helix, which is plus 500B, and minus 1 damage, and plus 200B, and plus 5 damage. And now to talk about the 40 card deck, because there is a full trading card game associated with it. Now it is no longer just about having 3 different colored ability cards. Now you can use 3 different factions entirely, which is essentially just attributes. And to go over some of the best cards. So first off, there is 2 copies of Air Zero. This is a really popular card, currently about $8 American each. And it's 2 energy, which is the cost to play, and energizing is when you just put 1 card from your hand each turn on the field as energy, kind of like energy on the Pokemon. Now you can reveal the top card of your deck, and if it's not flipped, you can play it for free. Now you just get a few other cards there, and there's also flip cards, which are horizontal to block and attack. Now this is a 5 cost called Mind Control, Darkus, and have your opponent reveal their hand. You can play an action card from it, which is an ability card, and you gain the effect, and then it gets discarded. Now you also get some other awesome rare, super rare cards in here, which is pretty nice. Shadow Dogs as well. As you can see, you can tell because of the different foil in the name. And then there is Dark Waters. This one I like. It's 1 cost, and you can reroll your Bakugan, and you add 200B, and then you get 2 of those, and then 1 of Deep Dive. So 1 cost, draw a card, and you can reroll. And rerolls are very helpful. Then Blinding a 2 cost negate an action card that costs 3 energy or less. Then there is a lot of Aquos action cards, and that is pretty much all for it. So there are some good cards in here, quite honestly. In the late 2000s, we had the original Darkus Hydranoids, but now, in the late 2010s, we have the new Hydranoids. Now, I think the Core and the Ultras are really good, and I can definitely see that they are having some similarities, just like the originals, and they're rebooted, so they're not going to be entirely similar. They are going to be its own design. And I think it's really great, the path they took, and that it doesn't have to follow all the horns and the spikes of the original one. And it honestly came out looking really nice. Even with an attribute change from Darkus to Aquos, it's still recognizably Hydranoid, and this is the reboot, so is going to be something different. And I think the change is nice, and I'm still glad that they brought it back, and we do have a Darkus one released. So, that is all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys like this video, leave a like. If you want to be updated for all my Beyblade and Bakugan content, hit the subscribe button down below. Thanks for watching, and remember to brawl on.